There are some people whose influence doesn't end when they leave this world. Years may pass, but their voice, their work, and the memories they created continue to live on in the hearts of millions. Alan Rickman was one of those rare people. To movie lovers, he was the unforgettable Hans Gruber in Die Hard. To fans of Harry Potter, he was the mysterious Professor Severus Snape, a character who went from being misunderstood to becoming one of the most beloved figures in the entire series. But to the people who knew him personally, Alan Rickman was something even more remarkable. He was loyal, thoughtful, incredibly intelligent, and the kind of friend who never disappeared when life became difficult. Few people understood that side of him better than Emma Thompson. Although they shared one of Hollywood's closest friendships for more than 20 years, Emma rarely spoke publicly about Alan after his death in 2016. Then, nearly a decade later, she finally began opening up about the man behind the legendary performances. What she shared wasn't another Hollywood story or a collection of famous memories. Instead, she revealed why Alan Rickman remained one of the most important people in her life and why losing him felt like losing a member of her own family. Long before the awards, worldwide fame, and unforgettable movie roles, Alan Rickman was simply a young boy growing up in West London. Born in 1946, he was raised in a hard-working family that never had much money but always valued honesty and determination. His childhood changed forever when his father died from cancer while Alan was only 8 years old. Losing a parent at such a young age left a deep mark on him, forcing him to grow up much earlier than most children. Friends later said that even as an adult, Alan carried himself with a quiet strength that seemed to come from those early experiences. Instead of expressing every emotion openly, he learned to keep his feelings under control, and years later, audiences would see that same quiet emotion in many of his greatest performances. Ironically, one of the most recognizable voices in cinema almost never existed. As a young man, Alan struggled with a speech issue that affected the movement of his jaw. Speaking clearly wasn't easy, but rather than accepting defeat, he practiced for years until he developed the rich, calm voice that would eventually become famous around the world. Even then, acting wasn't his first career. He studied graphic design, opened his own successful design business, and looked ready to spend the rest of his life as an artist rather than an actor. But deep inside, something kept telling him he belonged on the stage. At the age of 26, when many actors were already building their careers, Alan took a huge risk by leaving behind financial security to study acting at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art. It was a decision that completely changed his life. Years of hard work followed. Alan didn't become an overnight success. He spent countless hours performing Shakespeare, learning discipline, perfecting his craft, and earning respect in British theatre before Hollywood finally noticed him. Then, in 1988, everything changed with a single role. Playing Hans Gruber in Die Hard, Alan delivered one of the greatest villain performances in movie history. He proved that a character didn't need to shout to be terrifying. His calm voice, sharp intelligence, and controlled expressions made Hans Gruber unforgettable. Instead of being trapped by that success, Alan continued choosing challenging roles that showed different sides of his talent. From the unforgettable Sheriff of Nottingham to the emotional Colonel Brandon in Sense and Sensibility, he became known as an actor who could bring depth to every character. Then came the role that introduced him to an entirely new generation Professor Severus Snape. Unknown to almost everyone, author J.K. Rowling had secretly told Alan the truth about Snape's story years before the final books were released. That private conversation allowed him to shape every scene with hidden emotion, carefully planting clues that audiences wouldn't fully understand until the famous always reveal many years later. While millions admired those unforgettable performances, another incredible story was unfolding away from the cameras. During this period, Alan Rickman formed a friendship with Emma Thompson that would become one of the strongest relationships of his life, a bond built not on Hollywood glamour but on honesty, trust, and unwavering support through life's happiest and most difficult moments. Alan Rickman and Emma Thompson first worked together in 1995 on Sense and Sensibility, but the connection they built went far beyond a successful film. Emma had spent 5 years adapting Jane Austen's novel into a screenplay while also preparing to play one of the lead roles. It was an enormous responsibility, and there were days when the pressure felt overwhelming. During that stressful time, Alan quietly became one of the people she relied on most. He wasn't loud or attention-seeking. Instead, he encouraged her with calm words, honest opinions, and the kind of support that gave others confidence without making a big show of it. Emma later said that Alan had a rare gift that could make everyone around him feel that they truly belonged. A few years later, Their friendship grew even stronger when Alan directed Emma in The Winter Guest. Being directed by a close friend requires complete trust, and Emma believed Alan always wanted the best from everyone he worked with. He never praised someone just to make them feel good. If something could be better, he would say so with honesty and respect. Emma appreciated that honesty because she knew it came from genuine care. Their most memorable collaboration came in 2003 with Love Actually. On screen, they played a married couple facing heartbreak after years together. The famous Christmas scene, where Emma's character quietly realizes her husband has betrayed her, remains one of the most emotional moments in modern cinema. While audiences praised the acting, few knew that both actors spent long hours discussing the emotions behind every scene. Alan believed the pain of betrayal wasn't shown through dramatic arguments but through silence, small expressions, and the heartbreaking moments when people try to hide their feelings. That shared understanding helped create a performance that still moves audiences more than 20 years later. Their friendship became even more meaningful during one of the hardest periods of Emma Thompson's personal life. After the painful end of her marriage to actor Kenneth Branagh, Emma found herself struggling to move forward. Many people offered sympathy, but Alan did something much simpler and far more meaningful. He arrived with a bottle of wine, sat beside her, and stayed. He didn't pressure her to talk or pretend to have all the answers. If she wanted to speak, he listened. If she wanted silence, he sat quietly beside her. Emma later explained that Alan's silence never felt empty, it felt safe. He never judged her, never tried to fix her life, and never demanded that she be strong. He simply reminded her that she wasn't facing everything alone. That quiet loyalty became one of the reasons she always described Alan as her ultimate ally. Around the same time, they reunited in the Harry Potter films. Emma played the wonderfully eccentric Professor Sybil Trelawney, while Alan continued bringing Professor Severus Snape to life. Although their characters rarely shared important scenes, Emma understood the extraordinary work Alan was doing behind the camera. Years before the final books were published, author J.K. Rowling had privately revealed Snape's true story to him. Carrying that secret for nearly a decade, Alan carefully shaped every performance with hidden emotion that audiences wouldn't fully understand until the unforgettable always scene. His ability to play two stories at once, the cold teacher everyone feared and the broken man carrying lifelong love and regret, became one of the greatest acting achievements in modern cinema. Yet while millions admired those unforgettable performances, almost no one realized that Alan himself was quietly facing the greatest challenge of his own life, a battle he chose to keep hidden from the world. In 2015, while the world was celebrating Alan Rickman's incredible career, he was quietly facing a battle that almost nobody knew about. He had been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, one of the most aggressive forms of the disease. True to the man he had always been, Alan chose to keep the news private. Only his closest family and a small circle of trusted friends knew what he was going through. He didn't want sympathy, public attention, or headlines focused on his illness. Instead, he continued working, attending events, and living as normally as possible. To the outside world, nothing seemed different. Then, on January 14, 2016, the heartbreaking news of his passing shocked millions of fans around the globe. Tributes poured in from actors, directors, writers, and audiences who had admired his work for decades. But among all those emotional messages, one stood out more than any other. Emma Thompson, who had never been someone to share personal emotions publicly, sent just 7 simple words to a journalist: "I have just kissed him goodbye." Those few words carried more emotion than a long speech ever could. They revealed the depth of a friendship that had lasted for more than 20 years. For a long time after Alan's death, Emma chose to stay quiet. The loss was simply too personal to put into words. But as the years passed, she slowly began sharing memories that showed the world who Alan Rickman really was beyond the characters audiences loved. One of her favorite memories was from his final days in the hospital. The two of them spent nearly half an hour trying to fix a simple table lamp. They argued playfully over the wiring, laughed at their mistakes, finally got it working, and then sat together drinking tea. Looking back, Emma realized that ordinary afternoon perfectly represented their friendship. Even during the hardest moment of his life, Alan never lost his calm nature, his intelligence, or his dry sense of humor. Those simple moments became far more valuable than any glamorous Hollywood memory because they revealed the man hidden behind the famous voice. Today, nearly a decade later, Alan Rickman's legacy continues to grow stronger with every passing year. New generations continue discovering his unforgettable performances in Die Hard, Sense and Sensibility, Love Actually, and especially the Harry Potter series, where his portrayal of Severus Snape remains one of the greatest character arcs in modern cinema. Yet the people who knew him best believe his greatest achievement wasn't becoming one of the world's finest actors. It was becoming someone who inspired kindness, loyalty, and respect wherever he went. Emma Thompson often describes him as the ultimate ally, someone who stood beside the people he loved without asking for anything in return. He celebrated the success of others, offered honest advice, encouraged younger actors, and never allowed fame to change the way he treated people. Reading his published diaries years after his death reminded Emma of his brilliant mind, sharp humor, generosity, and unwavering honesty. Those pages confirmed what his closest friends had always known, that behind the unforgettable performances was an even more extraordinary human being. Looking back now, it's easy to understand why Emma finally decided to speak more openly about him. She wasn't simply remembering a famous actor. She was honoring a loyal friend whose kindness changed the lives of countless people, including her own. Alan Rickman proved that true greatness isn't measured only by awards, box office success, or legendary performances. It's measured by the people whose lives become better because you were part of them. That is why, even after all these years, audiences continue to admire him, colleagues continue to miss him, and Emma Thompson continues to remember him with gratitude instead of sadness. His films will always entertain future generations, but his compassion, integrity, and quiet strength are the qualities that will keep his memory alive forever. And perhaps that is the most powerful legacy any person could ever leave behind. If Alan Rickman's work has ever inspired you, or if someone in your own life has been your ultimate ally, share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your story. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more inspiring stories about the remarkable people behind Hollywood's greatest legends. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.